There is a lot of talk right now about the so-called mansion tax. But what does that actually mean? And could it affect your home, your ability to buy and sell, and even the wider housing market? Today, I'm going to break down the rumours, the possible outcomes, but the very real concerns by Rightmove, the UK's largest property portals. Stay tuned. The word mansion tax has been thrown across British politics for over a decade, and the rumours right now include three main ideas. Firstly, scrapping the capital gain tax exception for main homes. Now, right now, you don't pay any capital gains on the value that your property has gained over the years. Now, this could change, but mainly for those more expensive properties. And guess which properties are going to be hit the hardest? Of course, that's going to be in the south. The next thing is replacing stamp duty with a property tax. And again, this is exclusively for the most expensive homes. In fact, the rumours say that these are for properties that are over £500,000. Now, these rumours have been denied, but that idea generally is still being floated around. And get this, think tanks have proposed scrapping council tax altogether, which sounds great, but wait, they are planning on replacing it with an annual tax based on the value of the property, a percentage, with a minimum of £800 and a cap on the higher end. Now, of course, none of this is policy at the moment, but just the speculation alone is shaking the confidence in the property market. So why are people so worried? Well, those older homeowners in particular are stressed. A lot of them being asset rich but cash poor. Now, they may have bought their properties decades ago, had seen the value of their property increase massively, but their income may have not kept pace. In fact, for a lot of them, they actually live off their pensions. So suddenly you may find these homeowners actually not wanted to move or being forced to move, but even if they sell, they will be hit with new taxes as well, which means they may not be left with enough money to even downsize. So you're going to have a lot of homeowners stressed, which they are right now, but also potentially have homeowners who are forced to sell because they can no longer afford to maintain their current home, which they've been in there for years. And it's not just older owners. Anyone considering moving up or down the property ladder are suddenly asking, should I wait? Should I sell now before the rules change? That kind of hesitation sends ripples across the housing market. Rightmove recently put some data together on this debate, and they are warning the government to tread carefully. Here is what the data shows. Nationally, around about 30% of properties in England are worth around about £500,000 or more. Now, annual property tax is to replace the stamp duty. Well, those homes are going to be directly hit at that threshold. And guess where those properties are going to be at the most in numbers of £500,000 or more? It's going to be in the south, and particularly in London. I mean, the average property in London is around about £600,000. In fact, in London, it's far higher. 59% of properties for sale are above £500,000. In the northeast, it's just 8%. So any one threshold across the country is going to be uneven. And looking at sales agreed this year alone, we can see that 19% of sales agreed in England are above the 500 grand. In London, that's over half. 52% of sales agreed have been in that price bracket. Northeast, that's just 4%. And when we look at the top end of the market, we can see that properties over 1.5 million represents just 1% nationally fall into this bracket. But in London, it's 1 in 10 properties for sale and 5% of sales agreed. Compare that with the northeast, where it's basically negligible, just 0.1%. So again, when it comes to the housing market in England, geography matters massively. And if you're a homeowner or buyer or an active seller, I'd love to find out your thoughts. Leave me a comment below. Who gains, who loses? Let's break this down by type of mover and start off with first-time buyers. Rightmove actually argues that shifting property tax from buyers to sellers could actually be a positive thing, because first-time buyers already struggle with raising high deposits, but also mortgage affordability, and then they're hit with a high stamp duty tax. So at the moment, that could really help first-time buyers get on the property ladder. However, there is a catch to that. Sellers may decide, well, actually, I want to make up that tax that now I have to pay and raise property prices. And of course, then that benefit evaporates completely. And in the mass market, those at the £500,000 mark could be very disruptive. Imagine you have already paid stamp duty and you live in your home and you decide to sell up. Well, now you're going to be hit with another tax. That means double tax. You're not going to be very happy. And on the other end, if you are actually mid-move and this policy comes into place, you could be in between the two, which means that people are probably going to stall and it's going to create a little chaos in the market because you don't know where you stand, probably in limbo. And on the top end of the market for those luxury homes, the proportion of those properties is actually quite small when you compare it to the whole of the country. It's just 1%. But places like London and South East is a major part of the housing economy. Now, if those owners feel they're going to be taxed unfairly, they'll decide we just won't move. But then that's going to slow down the chain. That freezes mobility and makes downsizing, believe it or not, more unattractive than it is today with all the taxes that there is in place right now. But here's the irony. The government may end up raising less tax if transaction slows down. So we talk a lot about the rental market in this channel. And where does this exactly leave renters? Well, if that stamp duty tax is shifted from buyers to sellers, in theory, it could make it easier for renters to become homeowners. But, and this is a big but, during that transition, they are continue to be renters. And what we do know today is that rents are 44% more expensive than they were before the pandemic. And on top of that, there's 26% less stock available. And that is adding pressure. So, from a property stock perspective and landlords already exiting the market. And what we do know is these rumours, they're certainly not exempt from the buy-to-let properties. So could this even further push buy-to-let investors to move away from the market, putting more pressure on renters? And if you're finding this video helpful, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a thing as the market changes consistently. Now here's the big thing. None of this is guaranteed to happen. Council tax reform can take years to implement. In fact, most likely into, or the soonest probably, to the next parliament. And by then, who knows who's in power. When it comes to shifting stamp duty from buyer to sellers, well, this is just an idea being floated about from a think tank in the Treasury. And when it comes to capital gain tax on your main home, well, this will be a political bombshell. Does Labour really want to risk this? If history has taught us anything, is that mansion tax ideas are often floated about, but very rarely implemented. In fact, if we look back, in 2010, we could see that Liberal Democrats floated about the idea of a 1% tax on homes over £2 million. In 2012, Judge Osborne considered the extra council tax bans, but dropped it due to Conservative promises not to introduce a mansion tax. Between 2013 and 2015, Labour pushed for a mansion tax on £2 million plus homes, but later shelved it. And in 2015, the Lib Dems tried again with a banded tax between 2k and 9k a year for £2 million plus homes before dropping it once more. So yes, the idea keeps on resurfing, but has a track record of just collapsing under pressure. And if you want to find out what could potentially be the end of UK property, make sure you watch my other video, also on the description. So what do you do if you're actually buying, selling, or even downsizing? Well, the key message is, do not let these rumours drive your decisions. If you have found a property, a home, that fits within your budget and your needs, don't pull out just because of speculation. We don't know, first of all, whether this is going to even take place, what form they will take if they do, and what the rates are going to be. Instead, focus on what you can control. Can you comfortably afford this new home you're moving into? And do you have wiggle room on your ongoing budget should there be potential changes, new reforms, or even rising costs? And if you're downsizing, ask yourself, will I still be downsizing despite these rumours? Because you see headlines, political headlines. If that's the case, then you'll be changing your decision every 4 years or every couple of years, especially with political turmoil that we've seen in the UK over recent years. Now, if the answer is yes, I'll be downsizing regardless of these headlines, then great, your answer is yes. If it's no, then it may be best for you to hold. The housing market is incredibly sensitive to taxation. Every time there's a change to stamp duty, it risks spikes and also stalls. We saw this last year in 2024 with the autumn budget with Labour, with the stamp duty reforms. So for now, the best advice is stay calm. Don't panic buy or sell. At the moment, it's more rumours, it's more politics than policy until something actually happens. So what do you think? Will a shift on taxes to sellers actually help first-time buyers or actually stall the market, putting off downsizers? Let me know your thoughts on the comment below.